Welcome back, Michael at Wickerson Studios. Really coming into my own a little better with ghpython Remote. And what I've done is I've reactivated it, and I'm going to keep this series going. But what I want to show is it made some really good improvements on my last video series, which if you went into my YouTube channel, Michael Wickerson, and went down the playlist and sorted through here, and scan through till you get to the one-liners. It was a book I translated from one-liner Python script into Grasshopper. But what happened with that was as I got to this really nice section, let me just turn off these ads. Oh, hold on one second. Blah, 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 blah. What happened was this series, which went through, um, really started to get interesting as we moved. But we got to the fact that we needed this master one-liners to go to this to start using other libraries. Numpy being the first one. But the problem was with a lot of that was I was only bringing to the output. Here, I actually had a sample of getting in and using this to-do list, which is really nice because I guess I didn't pick up on it while I was doing it. I was using it. It was a way to bring all those numbers in, and I was doing that very well, but I didn't spend enough time talking about that, making that a list, using the tree helpers, and then making the list of those. Now, it looks like I did do some with intermediate tree helpers for ghpython Remote. I didn't stress the full importance of that because when I watched my whole video series, I seem to have neglected that farther on. So that first one was really key, the 5-minute video. But as we went farther into it, you can kind of take a look here and see that I was only outputting out of the outputs after that, which really kind of slowed us down. So in returning to that and wanting to make improvements on that, I have decided that I will especially focus on what is needed and make some comments through here. So you definitely need the input from ghpython library tree helpers. You have to import list to tree, and that only works for Rhino 6 or 7. And then you also they need to be recovered from the local interpreter first. So you'll have to go to whatever you're outputting and make sure that the ghpython remote obtains the whatever that variable was called to list, and then that to list tree, you can then start changing its format and dealing in matrices and vectors. So I did get that up and running, which is nice. I used the sample of this one not running. As you get into it and run that script, you'll see you don't get anything out of your A input, but if you're running it correctly, then it'll take any of your lists using the obtain and the list to tree, and you can input that. So I spent a little bit of time on it in the first video. I had to go back and figure it out again, and that's exactly what I've done. And then what I've done is I've started to write things like this nice little range node of pulling these in and then pushing it through. So if we take a look here again at what I'm doing, I have a double step. One was playing around with changing the type of the storage from an integer 32 to an integer 16, but I'm still using that obtain in that list tree so I can output it to whatever I want in my nodes. And then the last example, I guess that was the two examples I'm doing. So what I'm going to end up doing now is starting to do some manipulation on those for basic math functions. And we'll just continue with that. So hopefully that's making a little sense. There was a video that definitely did that in the past. It was a short 5-minute video, worth having a look at right here. Oops, sorry. It's probably best to get through those one-liners and get a sample of how it's working. But when that literally makes it down to this, to the more advanced setting as you go, maybe it's best if I go back into it, this series, yeah, and get down through. I think it starts at number 13, and you'll want this short 5-minute video to review what is necessary to bring in so you can output those lists. I don't know how much I spend time talking about the details of that. I think I'm more interested in getting it up and running, but I didn't focus on what I'm saying to get your outputs to go to lists and to trees. If you don't do that, there's no reason to work in Numpy because it's not going to give you any data that you can really do things with. So I'll continue this series. Just a little side note, all these are available, these scripts, you can see them on my GitHub, and I have it open source. Thanks for watching, And maybe I'll just jump back into here so we can see the scripts as I'm going. I did provide a little bit of information off the bat of why you'd want to start dealing in scalar beyond scalars into vectors, lists, and into matrices, because then you're going to be able to really have some powerful scripts in Grasshopper to run some big data into different forms of data. Okay, and it should be, I mean, that's basically it. Keeping it simple to start, and you can make it as complex as you like.